My name is David Gallo. I'm the director of the AIFC Academy of Law, and we'd like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you who are participating from all over the world. Great event today, the next in the series of webinars sponsored by the Academy of Law. In this case, we have some other experts from within the AIFC who will be our featured speakers today. And we also have the unique privilege of having my friend and colleague and a luminary at the AIFC, Professor Dr. Alexander Van de Putte, who actually will be introducing the speakers and the event. My introductions get more flowery with time, but they're very well deserved. Professor Van de Putte is the chairman of the Academic Council for the Academy of Law. He's also the Chief Strategy Officer and the Chairman of Corporate Governance and Stewardship for the entire AIFC. So it truly is my distinct pleasure to turn it over to Alexander, who will introduce today's event.
Thank you, David. And indeed, they turn increasingly flowery. And as each time that you're going to introduce me, I wonder, what is my good friend David going to say this time? So it's actually nice to hear each time a surprise. But today is not about me. Today is obviously about the speakers. And actually, I wanted to say something about the AIFC Academy of Law. It's actually breaking a lot of new ground. Yesterday, for example, we graduated 25 interns from the internship program, and they were truly global. So, and that basically means they will spread the message of the AIFC and their experience also by going through the internship program. Today, the focus is going to be on the AIFC tax regime, and it's a very important topic. I would like to remind our audience what our mission is at the AIFC overall and how the tax regime actually will contribute to achieving that mission. So the mission is to contribute to the sustainable economic development of Kazakhstan and the region by fostering innovative financial products and services. So in essence, we are the window to the Kazakh economy. In other words, we try to attract foreign direct investment. Obviously, from a foreign investor, tax considerations are extremely important. So today, indeed, the focus is going to be on AIFC tax regime, specifically tax advantages and tax administration in the AIFC, and we have 3 speakers. 2, I believe, are directly working for the AIFC, and then yet a third one who is with a tax advisory firm. So the first speaker is Saya Misharipova. She is with the AIFC Authority, where she is a director of tax policy department. So welcome, Saya. Good to hear you. Good to see you. Then Daniyar Sultanov. He's a manager of tax policy department. That's the same department as Saya. And then finally, we have Dastan Kaziyev, who's a general director of Tax Pro LLP. And the 3 of you will actually provide you some key insights about why the AIFC Authority and the AIFC in general provides unique advantages through its tax regime. So the floor back to you. And David, again, thank you for the introduction. Looking forward to listening to all of you. Thank you.
Good day, dear guests. Thank you for joining today's sessions. My colleague Daniyar Sultanov and Director Tax Pro Company Dastan Kaziyev will be today's speakers. During the webinar, they will cover main features of AIFC tax regime, and they will be pleased to answer to frequently asked questions related to taxation. Thank you very much. Daniyar, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, dear listeners, and let's start our presentation. Next slide, please. The AIFC tax regime is prescribed by the tax code, except for the exemptions provided by Article 6 of the Constitutional Statute. Exemptions prescribed by the Constitutional Statute prevail over the provisions of the tax code. And the AIFC Statute defines AIFC participants as legal persons registered under the acting law of the AIFC and legal persons recognized by the AIFC. For tax purposes, legal persons are considered to be residents of the Republic of Kazakhstan. Next slide, please. One of the main advantages of operating in the AIFC are adequate tax conditions, and this is achieved through availability of corporate income tax and value tax exemptions for AIFC participants that provide financial services, and the corporate income tax exemption for AIFC participants that provide ancillary services. In addition, there are exemptions on income tax on passive income for owners of companies registered in the AIFC. And also, there are exemptions for securities that are listed on the official list of the Astana International Exchange. Next slide, please. The AIFC statute provides exemptions from corporate income tax and value-added tax for participants that provide the following financial services. These are Islamic banking services, reinsurance and insurance brokerage services, investment management services for assets of investment funds, brokerage dealer services, and last, any other financial services determined by a joint order of the AIFC, the Ministry of National Economy, and the Ministry of Finance. In addition to exemptions on providing financial services, the AIFC statute provides corporate income tax exemption for AIFC participants on income from the provision on ancillary services, such as audit, legal, accounting, and consulting services that are provided to AIFC bodies or AIFC participants that provide financial services, defined in the statute and listed by me before. Here I would like to know that if an AIFC participant that applies tax exemptions and has both exempt and non-exempt turnover, then such a participant shall keep separate accounting in accordance with regulations on keeping separate accounting of income that is subject to exemption of corporate income tax and income that is subject to taxation. These regulations are approved by the joint order of the AIFC, Ministry of National Economy, and the Ministry of Finance. And these regulations are posted on our website under Tax Administration section. Next slide, please. Here I would like to focus on other financial services determined by a joint order specifically. At the beginning of June this year, the joint order by the AIFC, the Ministry of National Economy, and the Ministry of Finance on approving the list of financial services provided by AIFC participants, the income from which is exempt from payment of corporate income tax and value-added tax was approved. The list of financial services includes a list of services and their description, as well as definition for the application of this list. This list of financial services includes 33 types of services and is divided into groups on the slide. For investments, there are 4 types of financial services. Custody services are represented in the list by 2 types of services. There are 3 services for Islamic finance and 5 types of services for investment, trust services, insurance business, financial technology, as well as deposit and loans. And last, banking services and clearing house services, 2 types of financial services represented in this group. The full list is available on the AIFC website under Tax Administration section. Please note that the key requirements for the application of corporate income tax and value-added tax exemptions in a joint order are availability of an appropriate license issued by the Astana Financial Services Authority and the provision of services on the territory of the AIFC. One of the frequently asked questions is what does on the AIFC territory mean? Here I will note that in the concluded agreement, AIFC participant specifies its details, including its legal address located on the AIFC territory. Currently, this is prescribed by the regulations of keeping separate accounting. In addition, the joint order on the list of financial services approved in June contains a clause on the necessity to comply with the requirements of the rules on actual presence, defined by an AIFC Act with the approval of the Ministry of Finance. These rules are currently being developed and will be published after the approval by the Ministry of Finance. Next slide, please. As for additional exemptions for AIFC participants that provide exempt services, the Constitutional Statute defines the following exemptions. First, these are exemptions for property tax and land tax on assets located on the AIFC territory. And next, this is personal income tax exemption for foreign nationals working under an employment contract for AIFC participants that provide preferential services specified in the statute and listed by me before. It should be specified here that these exemptions are applied only to foreign nationals working under employment contracts, and it does not apply to civil law contracts. Next slide, please. For AIFC participants, annual tax reporting forms have been developed and approved. The annual corporate income tax declaration on Form 180 is provided by participants if following conditions are met. First, such participant operates in Kazakhstan only on the territory of the AIFC. Next, such participants receives only income that is exempt in accordance with the constitutional statute. And last, such participant is not a trustee in accordance with tax code. In case of non-compliance with the above requirements, the participant must submit an annual corporate income tax declaration on Form 100. In this form, there is a necessary annex and lines where the income received in the AIFC is indicated for their adjustment. For other types of taxes and payments, tax reporting form must be submitted in accordance with the generally established procedure, both in terms of forms and deadlines. Next slide. Frequently asked questions include tax accounting, in what currency records must be kept, what policies or special tax forms are available. Rules concerning tax administration and interaction of state revenue authorities with AIFC bodies and participants are approved by the joint order or by the AIFC and State Revenue Committee. According to the rules, taxpayer of the AIFC means registered AIFC participant that carries out activities in the Republic of Kazakhstan only within the area of the AIFC. Such taxpayers have the right to maintain accounting records, including tax forms, and submit the necessary documents to the state revenue authorities in English. Also, according to the rules, the AIFC taxpayer may maintain tax accounting in a foreign currency. But here I would like to point out that despite maintaining tax accounting in foreign currency, AIFC participant taxpayer pays taxes and other mandatory payments to the budget only in tenge. As for the tax accounting policy and tax registers, the taxpayer has the right to apply the standard tax policy and register provided in special provisions. These provisions are also approved by the joint order of the AIFC and State Revenue Committee. Here I would like to say that the taxpayer may independently make the necessary changes and additions to the tax policy and registers. Next slide, please. Tax administration of participants is determined by joint acts of the AIFC and state authorities. At this moment, the AIFC and state authorities have approved the following rules and regulations. First, these are regulations on keep it separate accounting of income that is subject to exemption of corporate income tax and income that is subject to taxation. Next, rules on tax administration and interaction of state authorities with AIFC participants. And last, three special provisions, one for tax accounting policy and the other two are on tax register and tax reporting forms. Next slide, please. Dear listeners, let's now turn to the topic of tax exemptions for investment on or passive income. Paragraph 7 of Article 6 of the Constitutional Statute provides exemptions on personal income tax for natural persons and corporate income tax for legal persons on income received from the following. First, for shareholders and founders of legal persons registered in accordance with the acting laws, and on income received from profits from the sale of shares or stakes in the capital of AIFC participants, and dividends from securities or stakes in the capital of AIFC participants. Therefore, an AIFC participant pays dividends in favor of its shareholders or founders, and it does not withhold taxes and pays dividends in full amount. Next slide, please. Second, there are exemptions on corporate income tax for securities listed on the official list of the Astana International Exchange for three types of income, which are profits from the sale of such securities, as well as dividends and interest. It should be specified here that The provisions of the Constitutional Statute define only one condition as a criterion for exemption from income tax. It's the presence of securities on the official list of the Astana International Exchange. In this regard, dividends or interest and profits on such securities are subject to exemption from income tax regardless of the place of the actual sale and accrual of dividends or interest on them. Next slide, please. Dear listeners, now I suggest that we move on to your questions and we'll try to give as much answer as possible.
Thank you for your questions. I have received several and shared it with our guests, speakers. Dastan, I guess we'll start this Q&A session.
Thank you, Almas. Yes, we have already some questions. First of all, I'm very glad to meet all of our participants here today on our webinar about AIFC tax regime. And let's start. First question is, describe how the tax conventions for the avoidance of double taxation are applied in the case of applying tax exemption under the AIFC statute. Thank you for question. It's interesting, but it's interesting because under the AIFC constitutional statute, we have a tax exemption. So let's talk about double taxation treaties or what is the main purpose of these conventions. So main purpose, as you know, it's to divide or maybe to allocate the assessment of tax between two agreed countries. So one country say that some portion of tax will be live here, for example, in Kazakhstan, in a country of income source, and the other party say, okay, we should tax the another part of this income. These double taxation treaties make limitations to taxation in the country of income source. And because we have no taxation here in Kazakhstan under the constitutional statute, so I think there is no reason to use double taxation treaties. But on the other hand, we have a absence of tax to be offset in the country of residence of non-resident. And that's why this non-resident should be remember that all of income should tax it in his country of residence fully, and no amount of tax offset from Kazakhstan will be. So the next question is, if a company, AIFC participant, provides a service to a future AIFC participant prior to its registration in the AIFC, will the income from such services provided to the future AIFC participant be exempt from paying the corporate income tax? So second question is also very interesting. And I think that here is the income recognition matter, or to be exactly the time of recognition. So if your counterparty, I think in this question we are talking about the auxiliary services, and for example, if me as a participant of AIFC providing services to the future participant, providing consultancy services, for example, and if at the moment of income recognition by me, my counterparty will be or will have a status of AIFC participant, so the our tax exemption will be applied. And if no, sorry, no exemption. Next question. Do all the EU, I think you mean Eurasian Economic Union preferences apply to AIFC participants. If residents of the Russian Federation open a holding company in the AIFC but operate in the Russian Federation, are AIFC holdings taxed if taxes have already been paid at the level of subsidiaries in the Russian Federation? I think that question is about two separate companies. So one company, subsidiary company, is a resident of Russian Federation, and the second company is the resident of Kazakhstan, also is a AIFC participant, and it is a holding company. So, if we are talking about the receiving of dividends from our subsidiary from Russian Federation, so we at the in constitutional statute we have no exemptions for this type of income, and that's why we should apply the general rules. General rules prescribed in tax code and DTT between Republic of Kazakhstan and Russian Federation. And if I remember correctly, there is limitation on 10% to corporate income tax. But on the other hand, we have our tax code, and we have article number 241, and there we have not the not formal exemption, but we have there the adjustment of the total annual income of the resident of Kazakhstan. And this adjustment, in fact, is the exemption from corporate income tax. And that's why we can speak about that here in Kazakhstan, no taxation for legal entities, which receives dividends from any other party, including non-residents. And that's why I can resume that this income should be taxation only in Russia under the Russian tax legislation and under the limit which prescribed in our DTT between Kazakhstan and Russia. So, Almas, colleagues.
Yes, thank you, Dastan. As it was in Russian webinar on taxation, today we have so many questions, so I have sent several to Daniyar. Daniyar, please, floor is yours.
Yes, I got some questions. First, please tell me whether the joint order on approving the list of financial services provided by AIFC participant, the income from which is exempt from corporate income tax and value-added tax, has entered into force. The order is posted on the AIFC website without any signatures or seals. If so, from what date this order valid, and when will the signed scan of the order be posted on the AIFC website? The short answer is yes, the joint order is valid. It's been approved by the governor of the AIFC as of 26th of May, the Minister of Finance as of 29th of May, and the Minister of National Economy as of 12th of June, and it becomes valid after all parties sign the joint order. I want to remind that this joint order is posted on the AIFC website under Tax Administration section. Regarding the signed scan, however, unfortunately, we can publish joint order with stamp and signature, because in order to comply with requirements of the law on legal acts. Next question is, do tax exemptions only apply to financial services? If our company provides data processing services, it means that we do not receive these exemptions. The answer is, the Constitutional Statute provides exemptions only for AIFC participants that provide financial services, as determined in the Constitutional Statute, and exemptions for AIFC participants that provide ancillary services. Data processing services do not belong to any of these two types of services, and accordingly the taxation will be carried out in accordance with a generally established procedure. Next question. If the founder of a limited liability partnership, an AIFC participant, is not an AIFC participant, is profit from the sale of stakes in the capital of such an LLP exempt from income tax? In accordance with the constitutional statute, natural and legal persons, regardless of their status and residency, are exempt from income tax on income received from profits from the sale of stakes, shares or stakes in the capital of the AIFC participants that are legal persons registered under the acting law of the AIFC. Therefore, in this case, the exemption is applicable. That's all the question I got for now.
Yes, I sent several to Dastan. Please continue.
Yes, thank you, Almas. I have another part of questions. The question is, can you tell us again what the services provided on the territory of the AIFC mean? Yes, one of the most often questions, and I'm happy to try to answer and to describe this situation again. For the full answer, I think we should go to two acts. So first of all, we have to look to the regulations on keeping separate accounting. And in this document, we have a requirement that income received from activities on providing services on the territory of the AIFC is mentioned as a direct income, and it is the exempted income. And in this way, we can say that we are talking about the income received by the agreements concluded by the AIFC participant on the territory of the center. So in this concluded agreement, AIFC participant specifies its legal address located on the territory of the AIFC. And the second document is the joint order that provides financial services which exempted from CIT and VAT. And there we have the obligation of participant to perform its main activities on the territory of the AIFC during the entire relevant tax period in compliance with the requirements for actual presence. So I think these two documents answers to your question, and these two requirements is necessary to have think and that this income is on the territory of the AIFC. Next question. Is investment income from units exempt from corporate income tax or an increase in the unit value? If we are talking about the units, we can say that only one option we have to exempt this type of instruments or incomes from this type of instruments to be exempted. It's if these units or will be on the official list of the stock exchange of the AIFC. So we can talk about two types of income. First is dividends, and second is increase of the unit value, or it's like a capital gain. So dividends may be exempt if these units will be on the official list of stock exchange on the day of their accrual, and capital gain from units will be exempted if these units will be on the official list on the day of their sale. So in any other cases, no exemption will be applied, and that's all. Next question. Please explain whether provisions of the joint order on approving the list of financial services provided by AIFC participants, the income from which is exempt from CIT, VAT, provided by an AIFC participant to a non-AIFC participant. For example, will the service on providing credit, including interest, be exempt from corporate income tax if the credit facility is provided by participant to a Kazakh legal entity in the form of a JSC LLP? So the short answer, yes. This income from providing credit will be exempted, and the legislative basis for this short answer is that our constitutional statute has the Article 6, and in this Article 6 we have a paragraph 3 where 3 and in other paragraph, sorry, don't remember now, that constitutes the exemption from corporate income tax and value-added tax to income received from providing financial services. And these financial services is prescribed in joint order on financial services. Sorry. And the joint order has a lot of types of financial services, which my colleague Daniyar mentioned it above on his presentation. And this list includes the type of service like providing credit. So if this participant which provides this service of providing credit is in compliance with two requirements which I mentioned above, that it's should be on the activity of this participant should be on the territory of the AIFC, and it's should be in compliance with the requirements for actual presence. So in this case, you can use the exemption from corporate income tax and value-added tax. And we have no any requirements for the other party, so for the status of your client. So that's why you can use exemption in any cases when you provide services for residents or non-residents and so on. So, Almas, do you have another questions?
Yes, I sent 3 of them to Daniyar. Daniyar, please.
Let's read the questions. If a company becomes a participant of the Astana Hub, which has its own tax exemptions, what are the changes in the tax payments? According to the constitutional statute, the tax regime on the territory of the AIFC is prescribed by the tax code, except for the exemptions provided by Article 6. And as you know, the tax exemption for Astana Hub participants is prescribed by the tax code, which means that the Astana Hub participant has the right to apply the exemptions provided by the tax code in accordance with the established procedure, taking into account the exemptions provided by the constitutional statute on the AIFC. Next question. Good afternoon. Are there any special features of taxation of non-profit organizations suggested in the AIFC? Taxation for non-profit organization is carried out in accordance with the generally established procedure, and AIFC does not provide any special features for such organizations. I think that's all the questions I got for now.
Yes, Dastan. Your turn.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, I have 3 more questions. If the company is subject to VAT will it be necessary to issue an electronic invoice for the services provided, despite the fact that the company is engaged in AIFC insurance licensed activities that are exempt from VAT and CIT? So yes, I understand your question, that it's a fact about to make a exempted turnover, exempted from VAT. And but to answer to this question, we should look to our constitutional statute, and there we have a Article 6 and paragraph 1, if I did not forget, where mentioned about the tax regime of the AIFC does not is under the general regulation of tax code, only except from the exemptions which prescribed in this article. And in constitutional statute, no any exemptions, no any specific rules for electronic invoicing. That's why, because we have no any exemptions, we should apply the general procedure, and we are going to our tax code, and there we have a Article 412, which regulates the invoicing procedures. And under this article, every VAT payer or every taxpayer which registered as a VAT payer should make should invoice, and nowadays is all invoices are electronic, and that's why if you are already registered as a VAT participant, so you will have obligations to issue an electronic invoice, and including for the exempt turnover. And you cannot meet this requirement only if you are not yet registered as a VAT payer. Next question is, how will REIT, that is real estate investment trust, income from rental payments be taxed? I think here is the yes, the meaning of question is we always talking about the financial services and about the auxiliary services and so on. And how about the income from rental payments? So as we all know that these type of payments are not income from the financial services, are not income from the auxiliary services, and so that's why I can answer that no exemptions for this type of income. Next question. Which tax reporting forms should be submitted by an AIFC participant? So thank you for your question. It's a very big, huge, or wide question. And the short answer is in general rules prescribed in our tax code. So because our constitutional statute has no any specifics for the tax reporting forms. And but now I can shortly describe the type of tax reporting forms for those who don't know our tax legislation. So I can describe, or I can divide all tax returns to the two categories. So first category is the tax reporting forms submitted unconditionally. So every time it is not depend from the presence or absence of tax objects or turnover, income, and so on. And the second type is are submitted under certain conditions. So let's go to the first category. And the first category includes the corporate income tax return or declaration. For AIFC participants, we have two types of corporate income tax declaration: is the Form 180 and Form 100. As Daniyar described in slides today, there are some requirements to pass Form 180. And if these requirements are not met, you should go to Form 100 as all of other taxpayers in Kazakhstan. Second form is Form 200. It is a declaration on personal income tax, social tax, and social payments. Here in Kazakhstan, we have a number of social payments. So this is the one universal form for all taxes and payments to the employees. And this type of tax return is also submitted every time unconditional. And that's all, I think. And only these two types of tax declarations are submitted unconditional. And the second category is all other forms. And I would like say separately about the Form 300. It is the value-added tax declaration, and it is submitted if taxpayer, in our case, AIFC participant, is registered for VAT. So after registration, sorry, this taxpayer will have a status of VAT payer, and after this moment, it obliged to submit this form every time. Still, he is has status of VAT payer. And the next form I would like to say is the form for advance payments on corporate income tax. We have two types of, it's not declaration, it's called calculations. And the number is the 101.01 and .02. So the first of this is advance payments for first quarter of the tax period, which is here in Kazakhstan for corporate income tax is a calendar year. And the second one is for other quarters, for second, third, and fourth quarter of the tax period. So these forms is submitted under the following conditions. First condition is first two periods after registration as a legal entity. This taxpayer does not have obligation to submit this form. And after these two periods, that is 2 calendar years, we should look to the gross annual income for the tax purposes for the first tax period after registration. And if this income at this period will exceed the amount of 325,000 monthly calculated index, we have this type of index in Kazakhstan, and if your gross annual income exceeds this amount, so you will have the obligation to file this calculation or this tax reporting form. And if no obligations. And every next year you should go and you should look to the gross annual income of the year preceding the previous year. That means the 2 years later. And I think that's all. And all other tax returns, tax declarations, calculations, and all tax reporting forms are submitted if there are any objects of taxation. If no objects to taxation, no obligation to submit any other tax reporting forms. And for the types and conditions to submit, I think that's all. And it should be interesting to know, I think, about the administrative liability for not submitting within the established deadlines. So yes, we have fines for this, but I think about 2 or 3 years ago, okay, a few years ago, in our administrative code, we had some amendments. And after these amendments, when taxpayer, any taxpayer, will not submit within the deadline in first time, we have a liability only in the form of warning. So no real fines for this. But if you have if you not submit in deadline with second time in the 12 months period after the first, you will be they will apply the fine, and the amount is depends from the volume of or from the type of taxpayer. So all taxpayers is divided to 3 types: so small business, middle, and the big business. And the fine amount is from 30 to 70 monthly calculated index. So I think it's enough for the moment about this very huge question. And this is the last one for me now. Thomas?
Yes, thank you, Dastan, for such interesting answer. So, Daniyar, the floor is yours.
Okay. The question is, what is the conceptual difference between an AIFC participant taxpayer and a non-taxpayer participant if regulations on separate accounting must be followed by all AIFC participants regardless of their tax status in the AIFC? And as an AIFC taxpayer, the obligation to maintain tax register allows you not to use AIFC register under special provision number 2, but to maintain them in accordance with the tax code of the Republic of Kazakhstan. The answer is the status of an AIFC taxpayer entitles the AIFC participants to use the feature of tax administrations as stated in the rules of tax administration. And in particular, these rules establish the right of taxpayer to maintain tax records in the functional currency, keeps tax accounting and documentation in English, and apply the accounting policy and tax register for the corporate income tax of own choice, either standard or developed independently in a generally established manner. Next question is, what will be the tax consequences for a Kazakh company that registers a branch or representative office in the AIFC to carry out unregulated activities? The answer is the tax regime of the AIFC provides tax exemptions for an exhaustive list of income, and it does not include income from unregulated activities. Therefore, the registration of the branch in the AIFC will not affect the taxation of these activities, and taxation will be carried out in accordance with the requirements of the tax code of the Republic of Kazakhstan. And last question for me is, if a law firm has a license on providing legal services, provides accounting services to an AIFC participant, would also be exempt from corporate income tax? The answer is no, because the type of provided services does not match the license given to AIFC participants. So in order to apply the CIT exemption on income from accounting services, the participant must obtain an appropriate license from the Astana Financial Services Authority. That's all the questions I got.
Yes, Daniyar, many thanks for your answers. So for now, we answered to all questions. We have just one specific question. I guess it's better to have additional analysis and the answer to it. I will forward to our speakers. Thank you to China Construction Bank. At that point, I guess we can finish. So David, please.
Yes, thank you. On behalf of the AIFC Academy of Law, I want to truly thank our three speakers today, Saya, Dastan, and Daniyar. You were fabulous. This was obviously a highly relevant and interesting session today, and you covered topics that are very much top of mind among the audience here at the AIFC and across the globe. So thanks so much to all of you for your time and effort today. We really appreciate it. And thank you to our participants today who signed in, had a lot of interesting questions, and clearly were engaged in this material. So with that, stay safe, stay tuned. We have many more learning and development events coming up just around the corner, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.